Right. It is 8:30, so I will call the Planning, Environment, and Development Committee meeting of June 2nd to order. To do a roll call, everyone is here today.
Move to approve the minutes.
Mr. Gadamoller.
Second.
Seconded by Carl. Any comments about the minutes from the May 5th meeting? No comments. Go to vote. All those in favor to approve the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. We'll move right on. Just before that, I'll say that we have two members. One that has to leave at about 9:30 and the other one about 10. So we'll keep this moving.
We're going to lose the quorum at 10:30 because I'm leaving.
Well, then we know the meeting's over by 10:30. So we're going to keep it moving around pretty fast here. Public comment. We have Catherine Capelinos. I got it right here, Scott. Catherine, do you want to speak first? Or?
Just
Come on up.
Nope.
just go in the middle, or?
Yeah, anywhere right there in the
Anywhere
corner.
you can sit,
Yeah,
stand.
3
Okay.
minutes. 3
Is this
minutes.
good?
That's perfect.
Okay.
3 minutes for public comments. If you just introduce yourself, please, and say why you're here to get us started.
Good morning. My name is Catherine Capelinos. I'm a McHenry County resident, and I'm here once again to speak out against the practice of steer tailing and other abusive acts during rodeos, and to urge the board to pass the updated regulation language for rodeo events. I want to thank everyone on the board and my fellow citizens who have given this attention and move forward with this matter, and I hope nearby counties will follow McHenry's example and lead and pass similar regulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Next, Lori, do you want to come up? Same thing, just please introduce yourself and.
I wish I was that short.
Pardon?
I wish I could be that short.
Well, that's okay.
I'm cutting you off after 3 minutes. I'm cutting you off after 3 minutes. So.
Didn't mean that. Lori Cisneros, 9900 Harmony Hill Road, Marengo. Good morning. I'm here, the Coral Township Plan Commission has been reviewing the UDO amendments over the past couple months. Wanting to be proactive, I reached out to Kim and Adam, who clarified several items. However, one amendment remains a major concern, and that's allowing off-site service businesses in A1 with conditional use. The issue is the definition itself. Currently, off-site service businesses is defined as a business engaged in building trades such as carpentry, ironworking, masonry, pipe fitting, roofing, off-site repairs, or other services primarily conducted off-site and involving vehicles and or heavy equipment such as trucks, snowplows, paving equipment, or excavation equipment, and which typically includes outdoor storage as an accessory use. This definition is too broad. It lumps together small contractors with a single truck or hand tools with businesses operating excavation equipment or entire fleets. These uses have completely different impacts, yet the definition treats them the same. Because it's so open-ended, it puts too much pressure on the conditional use process to sort everything out. You can't anticipate every impact when the definition itself is vague. That leads to inconsistent conditions and enforcement challenges for P&D, the ZBA, and the county board. The Plan Commission advocates splitting this definition into two categories based on impact. First, light equipment off-site service businesses would be skilled labor or technical services performed off-site using hand tools, small equipment, and standard passenger vehicles or light-duty trucks. These uses don't involve heavy machinery, bulk outdoor storage, or activities that generate noise, dust, traffic, or wear on our township roads. Allowing these low-impact uses on A1 properties is unlikely to harm the rural character. Two would be the heavy equipment off-site service businesses. These would be businesses that rely on heavy equipment, commercial-grade machinery, or outdoor storage of materials, vehicles, or equipment to operate. These uses create higher noise, dust, traffic, and visual impact, and place stress on our township roads. They don't belong in A1 with conditional use, and they conflict with the county's 2050 plan by introducing industrial-type operations to ag properties. If the definition stays as it is, covering everything under the sun, how do we determine what's too much equipment, too much noise, too much outdoor storage. The limits are unclear, and we've all seen how difficult that becomes. I'm not opposed to off-site businesses, but the definition must be clearer so that neighbors, applicants, staff, the ZBA, and the county board all know what the use is intended to include. Splitting it into two categories would make the process more predictable, fair, and enforceable. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to Jody Wiedrich. I'm not getting that right, am I?
Whitaker.
Whitaker, I'm
It's a
sorry.
lot harder than it looks.
Yeah, no.
Just stand here, is that good? Okay. I'm Jody Whitaker of Showing Animals Respect and Kindness. I think most of you might know me from speaking before. But first of all, I want to thank you for discussing the issue of steer tailing and the criminal animal abuse and torture and mutilation that occurs at every single event. I want to read a quick report pertaining to a steer tailing event that was held on Sunday, May 24th, 2026, a couple weeks ago in Rochelle, Ogle County. This was the Sunday of Memorial Day weekend. 40 steers were brought in from Iowa by Meyer Livestock. This is the company that rents out these steers to all of these events. We are sure that there's violations of these livestock coming over state lines. The 40 steers endured just over 400 runs. By the end of the event, 14 steers were degloved, which means all of the hair and skin is ripped from the bone. 4 steers suffered broken legs. 1 steer was repeatedly reused after he was visibly lame. The steers with broken legs were left without veterinary care or pain relief for hours after their injuries. At the end of the event, Meyer Livestock removed the other steers, leaving the steers with broken legs in their pen. Their subsequent disposition is unknown, but there is highly likely that they were slaughtered that night. And they could have been tortured all night because they were left on the property with the men who mangled their legs. The Ogle County Sheriff's Office was completely unresponsive to our numerous calls to require care, necessary required care by the law for these animals. So on behalf of Sharks, thousands of supporters and the more than 50 organizations that support a humane ban on steer tailing, again, I thank your committee and the entire McHenry County Board for discussing this issue and making moves to hopefully end the intentional dragging or pulling of bovines and taking them down and dragging them into the dirt, which always results in degloving and often results in paralyzing animals and these animals not receiving veterinary care, which is required by law. So anything you can do to pass an ordinance and stop these events in McHenry County, we appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's all I have on my list. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak this morning? Not seeing anyone. We will move on to members' comments. Do we have anyone here? Would any of the members have comments this morning? No members' comments. We'll move on to new business. Presentations, public health ordinance update. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for letting us come in. We'll make it a quick presentation here for you. We've been working on the ordinance. The last time it was updated was in 2022. So since that time, when we identify any issues, we've consulted with the state's attorney's office, and then we hear things from our regulated community or our customers, our residents, that some things are unclear. So a lot of what is in there is really just cleanup. But we wanted to present to you what we considered the more substantive, things in there in case you had questions or would like us to address anything in a different way. So Article 1 is our general provisions. I'm sorry, I'm Patty Noe, Director of Environmental Health, Mary Helen Howell, the Director of
Veterinary Health or Animal Control.
Exactly. So in Article 1 is our general provisions. So we have put something into as a mechanism to collect outstanding fees, so we won't issue permits, even our cyclical permits, if their outstanding fees are not paid. It just gives us another option to collect that without going through formal enforcement. We had to make a couple clarifications after consultation with the state's attorney's office about our appeal process, and make clear that what is actually appealable to the public health administrator or the Board of Health. One of those would be to recognize the independent authorities that Mary Ellen has as the animal control administrator specific to statutory authority. Then we extended the hearings, the time frame for scheduling hearings. It was 10 days, and it's actually almost impossible to get that group of people together and schedule something with the person who's appealing it within that. So we scheduled that to 30 calendar days. And then we were asked to just clarify minimum and maximum fines that apply to initial and subsequent violations that seemed to be unclear in the verbiage that we had. That's general provisions. Retail food, there are a couple things in here. This first one is we have had a recurring problem with unpermitted food vendors operating at permitted food establishments. These are typically places that offer limited foods. They want to bring in a truck or some other vendor to do it. We have no issue with that, but we've had many instances in the last couple years where those people were not permitted, so we want to put that responsibility on the food establishment operator. If you invite someone else in, to work with us to ensure that they are permitted vendors. We're establishing a business day notice for extensions of time. The idea of the extension is to not have to have staff go out repetitively unnecessarily. So if we don't get some type of notice in advance, it kind of negates the value of that. So we are asking for one business day notice. Our conditional permits, which we issue if we have a facility that is having performance issues, we are changing this up, and just to kind of simplify, there are, under the current system, there are violations that are very similar to each other but would be listed as separate violations. Let me just say hand washing could fall under 3 separate things. We're just rolling them up into one. If there's a hand washing violation, it's a hand washing violation. So really, it's to the advantage of our food operators. I think it's more representative of the concern than just counting the numbers of very similar types of violations. And then if we have plan review applications that have been inactive, we'd like to cancel those after 6 months, which we do in other programs just to keep our files current and moving forward. We're codifying the inspection process for our mobile food units. There is no change to the process, but we were asked by particularly a couple of the mobile vendors to put it in so that they understood exactly what they had to provide up front. With our seasonal temporary health permits, we're trying to offer a couple additional options. We do not renew the seasonal temporary health permits, but we want to offer a 5-month and an 8-month. We see these, with some of like the Riverwalk ones where they want to have the vendors, they're really there to sell their product, but they want to have limited sampling and things like that. So it will be, an option for them to operate a little bit longer in the year than they currently can. And then the last thing in food is for outdoor bar requirements. We've had a Board of Health policy on that for a couple years, and we put that in the ordinance, so it's just codified and everyone can see exactly what those requirements are. And that is it for food. Private sewage, mostly cleanup type issues are
Patty,
impact.
I'm sorry to stop you.
Yeah, please.
Let's see if anybody has a question about the food ones that we went through. No questions? Okay.
Well, I do.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
On the mobile
Yes,
food trucks and all that,
yes.
is there a state licensure that they have to?
There isn't. What there has been, there's a lot of discussion at the state level about establishing a statewide license for mobile food units.
So right now it falls totally on the county.
Yes, exactly. And I think the issue with mobile units is it falls on each county in which they're going to operate. And so, since they like to operate, let's say in Kane and McHenry, that's 2 permits. Kane, McHenry Lake, that's 3 permits. So, right, it's county by county at this time.
Is there a difference in our permits, like Kane County, Lake County? Is there a big difference in what we're planning on permitting?
No, generally, they're very, very similar. And we do meet, local health departments meet routinely every month or couple months to discuss issues like this in all the program areas. They're pretty similar. I would tell you the fees vary considerably. Ours tend to be on the middle to the low end. Lake County, DuPage, theirs are quite pricier. But we do ask for clarification on things like plumbing issues and stuff like that. And I'm not sure that every county does. They've tried to put in a state requirement for it, but they haven't gotten there yet.
What percentage do you find don't permit? Do you have an idea?
How many do I think are unpermitted going around? I don't have a number, but I would tell you that we encounter, maybe a dozen to 2 dozen in a year, that it doesn't mean that they don't get permits sometimes, but they don't get permits every time.
How long is a permit good for? 5 months and 8 months? 7, 8
For a mobile one, it could be for 5 months or a year. It depends what their facility is. And these are the temporary ones. Sometimes they get those two, which would be 14 days or 5 months or 8 months, depending on the permit.
Okay,
Is that answer? Okay,
that is.
wonderful.
Paul, did you have something?
Yeah, as far as the permits, so the trucks actually get inspected by y'all, right?
That's correct.
And then that's good for a year?
If they obtain an annual permit, then yes, basically they are a food establishment on wheels, and they can operate anywhere in the county any day of the year. That is correct.
Okay.
But we have varieties of those, yes. Go
And
ahead.
so if they move to different locations, is that, you gotta pull a permit for every location?
No, not if they're under that annual permit.
Okay.
But ones that don't, let's say they don't have a hand sink on board. So we see different varieties. So if they don't have a hand sink on board and we can't really permit them as a food establishment on wheels essentially, then they do have to get permits because they have to have, temporary facilities set up where they go. So those require more permits and they require more inspection. So we encourage them to get the annual permit when they can because it gives them the greatest flexibility.
Sure,
Yeah,
so
to
that's
do-
a full
Yep.
three bay sink and everything inside?
Yes, and many of those have them. I think we have maybe 50 to 60 of those operating in the county right now. Mhm. Yes.
You, Carl, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
A little bit clarification. Had a veterans organization come to me and ask, Lake County, you said that you do kibitz with Lake County and other counties.
Sure.
Lake County basically said, yep, fine, you could do your thing, corn roast, and no fee because it's a veterans organization, the money they get goes right back into the town. Now we come to McHenry, Veterans Park, we need a permit for that, and it's the same truck, the same people, the same grill. We go to the Riverwalk on Sunday, oh, no, you gotta have another permit, and those fees do cost, which is taken out, but yet Lake County said, you're good, you're, a nonprofit, we're gonna let you go.
Right.
And that permit gets you wherever you want. Now, is he blowing smoke up, or is there any legitimate to that?
Okay, I would say that, yes, I'd say that here's what's most likely happening. So Lake County does not have a mobile food permit like we do. So they issue theirs as temporary permits. So the difference, I think, is what your constituent is seeing is that we charge a fee for the service. So we don't have a category for nonprofits except for food pantries. That's the only one that we have. So traditionally and historically, we have charged a fee for those events. So I would say that that is correct, but that's really the interpretation. Lake County's not going to charge, it's a nonprofit, and we charge a fee for every vendor.
Any way to look into trying to get like Lake County for the non-profit that they're, helping out the veterans organization, going right back into the county, and just because they're here, that permit should, same thing, a block away, should be good to go instead of having to pay another fee.
Sure.
We shouldn't be in the business of taking money away when they're trying to help the community.
Right, so I'd be happy to put together what that impact would be, on our budget. We do a lot of nonprofits in a year. We've had this discussion in the past years. It could be, then the discussion would be, do we charge townships that have special waste holding tanks? Do we charge schools because they have permits? There's a lot of categories that we deal with that would impact. And I would be happy to put that together and bring that back if that's something that you would like us to review. But I would have to actually go back and look at my categories and figure out that number for you.
We can offline, figure that out.
Okay.
Good, Carly.
When was the last time we looked at those fees? I'm sure.
We did update the fee schedule in 2022. I believe.
Are we looking to do that again?
Yes, I will get to the fees.
Oh, okay, oh, that's next, okay, perfect. Oh,
Yes.
perfect timing. No, okay.
We've included.
I could see the challenge of trying to exempt certain organizations and not others, and we're in the process of trying to make sure we cover our costs. So I'm sure that would be a huge challenge, but it's something.
Yes, and I can put that together, but I can bring back actually what that number would mean, budgetarily, and I can talk to Melissa about that later this afternoon, sure. So private sewage, again, mostly just some technical cleanups, et cetera, but our construction impact reviews, we do quite a few of these each year, probably close to 200 of them. When someone wants to build a structure and they have a private sewage disposal system or water well, we want to be sure there's no negative impact, so we're clarifying that they're required prior to construction and, again, canceling inactive applications after 6 months. We are including a provision that if someone puts in an experimental system, these are very, very uncommon, but if they fail to meet the conditions of their approval, that would be considered a malfunctioning private sewage disposal system. It just gives us another option to ensure compliance. We are proposing to put in just in both water and sewage, a couple requirements for the short-term rentals, so the Airbnbs and the Verbos. We do actually get asked to review those fairly frequently. So we are just putting in that we'd like the advertising to be consistent with the design capacity. So, we see, it's a 1-bedroom cottage and they're advertising it for 10 people. So, those types of things just for consistency. And then also that it gives them information if there's a concern, who to call. So it's really, we're not actively going out seeking them out, but when we become aware of them, it will give us an option to tell them, provide information to their renters. And then for temporary holding tanks, that the letter of credit pending their connection to sewer or installation of a system would include the cost of pumping in case the department had to intercede and actually ensure that the system was pumped properly. This one is a little bit more substantive for plat of amendments. We currently have it if designated septic areas change on a plat, it must be done. But what we've seen coming through are where people have lots where they each had a ½ acre of non-critical soils on it. That's the way the lot was platted. And then they want to reconfigure the lots, and now the lot does not have the septic suitable area that it originally had when it was platted. So we would like to include this as something that would require a plat of amendment. I would tell you we don't see a lot of them, but we just want to ensure that someone that has that and purchased that lot and without any difficulty installing a septic system, still that option remains. And the last two are just deck piers and fences. So when they're installed, we just don't want them installed on top of components for structural issues and also for access to the components. That is private sewage. Any questions on that one? Okay.
No questions?
Okay. And then last is our private, semi-private, non-community water wells. So the first one is just that water wells should not be put into use until they've been approved. This mirrors the sewage code. It really just allows us an option if they don't complete their permit to go back and say, no, you need to complete it because of this. That will be helpful to us. That we may impose conditions on a permit approval. That's really very common practice. We just are codifying what is common practice. This one is, we do have a list of about 300 or so non-potable wells that are active in the county that we are currently aware of. And we have kind of struggled with what should that oversight of the wells be. Our concerns being if they are not used, because people don't want to seal them because they have a value. Let's say they connect to community water and they want to keep that well because they're going to use it to water the lawn or do something else. If they do those things, we're fine with that. When they don't use it, and then it can become a problem and can become a conduit for contamination to the aquifer. So what we're proposing is that once every 3 years that they would be required to have a licensed well contractor conduct an inspection of that well. The cost of that would be, I did check on this, would be about $150, and it would just ensure that the well is operable, and if there's backflow prevention required, that it's on there. Some of these are very complex, particularly the agricultural wells, with the irrigation systems. And we would just monitor those to see that takes place in lieu of our staff doing it ourselves. And then the last one is also for the short-term rentals, that just to require an annual sample of those water wells and notify property owners if there's any exceedances. There should be an expectation if you're renting it that the supply meets, has a potable water supply. That, I believe, is it for water.
I have a question, but it's going back to the last slide. It's just real quick.
Oh, sure.
On the on the Airbnbs, in terms of like their it's a one bedroom and they can sleep this many people.
Yes.
What are you communicating to the people that are staying there, or what is, because I know it's a much bigger use now than what the thing can potentially handle.
It is. So what we do currently is we work with the property owner and we'll send them a notice for exceeding the design capacity of the system. And, you know, we just can't monitor those all the time, nor is it our intention to do it. We just want them to be aware of the limits and then to just advertise and use the house appropriately. We have no issue with it being rented or anything like that. And then for the information, you know, just basic stuff. We provide them with kind of a list, you know, that there's a flyer there that just says, don't flush these products, you know, or if there's a problem, call this person, things like that. Because a lot of people don't understand the difference between municipal sewer and private sewage disposal systems, just for prevention.
Okay, and then the last one there,
Yes.
the sampling of the water well
Yes.
every year. Is that something where the owner would do their sample and bring it to you? Or
Yeah, yes, they could bring it to us. And again, we will follow up on these as we become aware of them. Right, so we do reviews every year for some of the municipalities, and we would just say, get an annual sample, do this. So we're not gonna actively go out and try to identify every Airbnb in the county, but we are gonna try to work with, you know, people that rent these and operate, owners of these, and try to get that information out to them.
Okay. As an owner of a rental property like that, that seems like a pain.
Does it? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's consistent with what we'd recommend anyone with a water well do is, you know, annually sample the well, just to ensure that there are no issues, right? And the test currently right now, I think is $30, and we're proposing, I can only say what ours is, so it's, you know, $30 sample.
What do you test for?
Coliform bacteria, E. coli bacteria, and nitrates. That's really considered the standard test, just like a real estate transaction, same test.
Oh, okay. Anyone else have anything on this? No? Okay.
Okay, so again, I'm Mary Ellen Howell, and I'm the Director of the Veterinary Public Health Division, or Animal Control. I'm also the Animal Control Administrator for the county. So Animal Control runs under both the Illinois Animal Control Act, and we have some responsibilities under the Illinois Humane Care for Animals Act. So most of our ordinance is based on the Illinois Animal Control Act, but we do have some local things such as barking that are not in that act, but we have some responsibilities to that in the unincorporated areas. So the changes that we're looking to make are mostly based on the state statutes. The state statute has very specific definitions of a reckless owner. So we had added our own local components to that definition, and now we're just separating those. And so we've created the irresponsible owner so that we could have the ability to still hold owners accountable for certain violations and take them through the court process. Feral cats, you probably know that we have many, thousands and thousands of feral cats here in McHenry County. And animal control is not set up to hold feral cats. We're set up to hold domesticated cats. So your cat or your dog that's your pet. We do get a lot of stray cats in, but feral cats, we don't want to burden the county. We don't want to burden our staff with the care because they're a little bit more fractious. So we want the ability to lower the hold on them and then find the disposition that we're going to have. It could be the feral cat is not really full definition of feral cat, we place it in a barn program, or it may be, as you see in the next one, that we're TNRing, which is trap, neutering, spaying, vaccinating, and then releasing. So by state law, any person can TNR a cat and put it back in their community, back in their neighborhood. So we want more organizations to be able to do that. Right now we have one organization that has been approved by the county. We have many organizations doing it, but we want them to understand what our requirements would be. Basically, you want them to go and see the vet, make sure they're healthy, that they're not going to pass any zoonotic diseases around. You want them spay or neutered so they're not repopulating, and you want them vaccinated so when they're out in the wild, they don't have the potential of contracting rabies and putting that in our general population. So we're lowering some of those requirements. One of the issues we have is compliance with biting animals. The state requires that every animal that bites, whether it's a scratch, a puncture, a scrape, any break in the skin, to go through a rabies observation. If that animal is vaccinated, then it can see the vet, be quarantined at home, and then see the vet at the end of the 10 days. If the animal is not up to date on its vaccine or has never had a vaccine, then it must go see the vet. It has to be quarantined at the vet, and then it's released on the 10th day. That's state requirement. We're having some difficulty with people getting through that, getting that done. We're coming up with some other options, but because we want those animals to be quarantined and it's state mandated, we are increasing the fines on those a little bit so that we can get that done. We also have gone to the state, which is not in here. So instead of requiring an animal to be quarantined from the date it sees the vet to the next date it sees the vet, so if your animal bit on a Friday, you get our paperwork, you might not get into the vet till Monday, but really to see rabies, you would see it in that first 10 days. So it's 10 days from the bite as opposed to 10 days from the start of the quarantine. Does that make sense? It lessens the burden on people to get it done, and we've actually seen compliance going up because of that. And the state has approved us to do that. The other really interesting thing that's been happening is that even though it's called a bite report, from the hospital or medical facilities, we're getting a report that actually turns out to be a scratch from a nail and not from a tooth. We don't need to do a rabies observation for a scratch from a nail, from a cat or dog. So it comes into us as if it's a bite from a tooth, and then we actually talk to the victim and the owner of the animal, find out that it's actually a scratch from a nail. Because of our state requirement, we just want to make sure that either the medical facility or the person is saying that it was giving us something in writing saying it was actually from a nail. Because rabies, once you acquire rabies, if you don't have PEP right away, it can be fatal. So it's very, very important that we make sure that we are always following up on our rabies observations. And then for the court purposes, the courts wanted to see a minimum and a maximum for each type of violation and each subsequent violation. Oh, ready?
No more fees.
Oh, I'm like, wait, that's not me.
So we are proposing to revise our fee schedule. It was revised in 2022, but it wasn't a large scale that we looked at every single fee and did them. So some of these fees have not been updated probably for greater than 5 years. So each division, we did go through and do a cost analysis to try to identify, are we close on our revenues with our cost for services? Generally in retail food, we do fairly well. But we do have a very complicated fee schedule for food. Number of seats, type of business, number of checkouts, all those types of things. So we really want to simplify it. There is no other county in our region that does it similarly. It was an attempt really to charge the fee correctly for any category of them. I think we got a little bit too detailed there. So we are proposing to just simplify it and do it based upon risk classification and type only, not seats, checkouts, square footage, those types of things. But it will then, what it's done is it's scrunched it down, right? So people at the very highest might pay a little bit less, but people at the low end could pay up to $115 more. And it will then, we just really kind of average those in there as what we think the representative cost is. So it's not a full scale, redoing the fee schedule, although there will be some that do pay more. That we did add in the food pantries and the community refrigerators. That's kind of what we just spoke about. It's been no fee by policy for at least a year or so, but we've codified that in the ordinance. Our temporary food permits is an area because they take place outside of regular hours, most often on the weekend, et cetera, where we are proposing an increase of $15 per permit category. So it'd go from 45 to the 60 and then to 75 to 90 on those. I think that's more in line with what other departments are charging in their areas. And then, as I said, we want to offer options for the seasonal permits. Farmers markets is the other area where we've actually had a little bit we have a farmer's market that has over 40 vendors, and we cap on our fees at 12. So we are proposing that when you hit 15 or more vendors, then you just pay $15 per vendor to try to even that out. And I think that would be more representative of our cost.
So with that one, who pays the $15?
Those farmers markets are done typically as just one permit, so that organizer of the farmers market does it. And so we will just count them up, and it's under one permit fee.
Okay,
So we're not going around each vendor and say, giving us $15, it's one fee.
Okay, the organizer, organization,
Yes.
whatever, okay,
That's correct.
thank you.
Potable water, the permit fee is set by statute at $100. That, hasn't covered that cost, I'd say, in many years. So we do also, like every other county in the region, we do have an inspection fee that goes with it. So we're proposing to increase that by $55. That would take the total permit fee from what it is currently right now at $220 to $275. We're just trying to close the gap between revenue and costs. In our laboratory, we're proposing some minor increases, $3 to $8, really to capture costs of the increase in supplies, which has been going up, continuously. And then for our seasonal beach sampling collection, we're just proposing that not this season, but the following season, that would go up by $100 for the season.
So,
yes.
I guess slow down.
Oh, sorry, I'm
Thank
so
you for
sorry.
going fast, but,
Sorry.
what's the actual cost for arsenic? What's that?
I'm so sorry. So that's something we cannot test in-house for. So it depends where we take the sample.
Okay.
So sometimes it's McHenry, and then sometimes we use Lake County, their laboratory for it. Those are required for new wells. So we don't get tons of them, but they are required to be done. But it varies considerably. One might be $25 and one is $50. And so our fee's not covering it.
Okay.
So we're just gonna charge them whatever we're charged is what they're gonna charge.
Okay, thank you.
That's what it's intended to be. Then in private sewage, we are proposing also some fee increases. In the residential area, our current fee for a new or replacement septic is $305. We're proposing to take that to $400. And then some minor increases on repair fees of $35 a permit. Septic suitability, taking it from $120 to $175. The construction impact reviews, we do a lot of those. They do require a lot of staff time. We're proposing to increase those from $120 to $200. And then in septic management, just minor increases of $30 to $50 on those permits. Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Just looking at the numbers, I know people that have presented before, they've kind of showed what they used to pay before, what they show now, what the percentage is. Some of these are 50, 80. I mean, you're really racking them up real quick.
Yes.
And then is that covering just your group of folks? Because are you overreaching, I guess, is going to be my final statement. Because
Right.
you got such a big group that you got to keep on charging the people more and more and more. Because people do come to me and they do say that the health department is overreached in many ways.
You'd have to be specific for me. I don't understand what you mean by that.
When they go for the permit, or if you get a fine and you guys come back, you go to a restaurant and you find that there's a violation in there. And then you got to come back and check on that violation. And then you come back and there's more violations and more. So there's like anticipation that you guys will never get out of some of these facilities.
Yeah, I would say that's actually not remotely correct.
No.
It's not. When we go to do the re-inspections, typically the re-inspection is almost always limited to what was written on the first report.
Okay.
The issue that we have, but I would tell you this, if we went in there to do a re-inspection and they had no hot water, we're not leaving the facility because they can't
Sure.
operate without hot water, right? So if something were significantly going on there, we would address that. But I would tell you, we're going through a review. I've just reviewed literally probably a couple hundred inspection reports. I've not seen that at, a single time.
That you didn't have to go back
No, we do have to go back.
for
and
the
we're-
original?
Yes, and we do, those are typically, like I said, for the original. And to be honest with you, we give them a notice that says we're coming back on this date. It's written on the report, and then we give them an option to actually send us an email, and if they can't get it done, is to get an extension of time. Let's just say it's a plumbing issue. You can't get the plumber there to do it, and it's minor, it's not causing any significant public health risk. At that time, we'll work with them and give them an extension. So I would, if you have more detail, I'd appreciate hearing that, because
Yeah.
that's really just not happening.
I'd love to take some time with you, and because there's a
Sure.
couple folks that have reached
Sure.
out, and they do feel that they're being targeted or feel that they can't get away out of the system, if you will.
Yeah, I would encourage them to do this as well, is that, everything that, when we do a food inspection, right on there says if you disagree with it, let's go ahead and appeal it. And I would encourage them to do it, because if they feel we've done it incorrectly, we'd like to, one, to know that, and two, we would like to make sure they understand that what needs to be done, and/or if we've made a mistake, we need to make that right? And so everyone, it's open to an appeal. I get maybe 1 or 2 a year, and we do 6,000 inspections a year.
So why are you going up 50 to sometimes, even greater than 50% on your fees?
Well, you're talking about this one in
Yeah,
terms of sewage?
you're showing us a little
Yes,
bit.
I would say that what we haven't done is we haven't looked at them annually. I mean, we do look at them, but we haven't increased annually as the costs do go up annually. And, when we did the cost analysis, I'd say there's some gaps there between, the cost to provide these services for these permits and the fees that we are able to generate. Part of that is economy of scale, right? Because prior to 2008, we had so many permits. This was the largest program we had in environmental health, right? And, we see now probably a total of about 400 permits. And prior to 2008, we were saying we were closer to the range of 1,200 permits a year. So part of it is that it's, there are less of them, and we still have to conduct the same inspections on all of them and send people out to do those and conduct the reviews. So that is why. Are you concerned that it's too much, is what I'm saying?
It's too much. And from 2022, you say, you're raising it to nearly 50% in 4 years. You're saying price of inflation, things of that
Sure.
nature. It's not 50%,
Mm-hmm. I understand what you're saying.
So there could be some overreach here, and I'm
No, I appreciate
I'm
that.
outside looking in.
No, I appreciate the comment. I can get you more information on that. And I think when, also if you look at where we fall into the region where other health departments, what their fees are, like I said, ours, even with these changes, will definitely remain at the low end, within the region. Now, and I'm not suggesting we should charge more than the cost of the service, because we would never do that.
Right.
But I'm happy to provide you with some additional information if you just kind of let me know what you might want to look at. And, if you think these are too high, then, as if the board, that's the decision, then we'll need to adjust them, right, to be representative of what is appropriate.
And there also could be, Paul, when they did this in 2022, it's a little bit subjective. They might not have brought them up. The analysis at that time might not have been perfect, So when you look at it again and you say, okay, now we really didn't hit the mark last time, we got to go to here. So there's.
I can respect that.
But and another way of looking at it too is that we could do more gradual increases, but we'd probably have to do them each subsequent year to probably get where we need to. And if that's a more reasonable or palatable approach, we could certainly look at that, and I could lay out a 5-year plan for those as well as to what that might look like over time.
That'd be nice.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say, I think that's appropriate, because I think there, and I've been in meetings before or listened in over the years, and we are very concerned about not charging more and keeping our fees low, and that's why we're the lower one with regards to the other counties. I think there's been that hesitancy to bring that up over time, so we get into the situation where now the cost of providing that service is outpacing what we've been charging, so we end up having these bigger increases. So I would advocate for looking at it more frequently, because we're catching up. We haven't captured that cost of providing that service, which just meant that everybody else in the county paying property taxes was subsidizing the additional cost for that service that was being provided. So somebody's paying for it, right?
Right.
And so looking at it more often, I think would be appropriate.
Oh, I agree, and I think that's also the direction that we would receive at Public Health and Community Services, is that, annually we should, probably be doing something because of those jumps. But I could certainly look at this over, a longer period of time, with the understanding that incrementally it would have to increase, to get to really close that gap that we're seeing.
That'd be great.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so right now, animal control has 18 different fees just for registration. Because we do our fee, right, our registration fee, and then we do a discount if you're a senior, we do a discount if you're microchipped, we do a discount, a different fee if you're spay or neutered, right? And our fees were updated in 2018 and then again in 2022. In 2022, we added in cat registration fee because that was required by state law for cats to be vaccinated and then for us to know the vaccination status for cats. So we added that registration fee in. What I am recommending is that we keep the dog basic fee flat. We increase the cat fee to match the dog fee because we probably house the same number of cats in our facility as we do dogs, sometimes more. We also do an equal amount of services for cats in our community as we do dogs, especially if you count in feral cats. Feral cats do not pay a registration fee, so don't misunderstand me on that. But I think we should be simplifying our fees. We're the only county who has any discounted fees. All of the other counties, none of the other counties, DuPage, Kane, Boone, Winnebago, Lake, they don't have any discounted fees. I'm very, very careful in my expenses versus my revenue. And I want my expenses and my revenue to be able to complement each other. Right now, we are a little bit low on our revenue, and this would help us bring in about 140,000 more, which would help meet that gap in revenue. So it's not a lot of money, but it is something that would help, one, meet that revenue need, and then two, animal control by state statute should be covering its own expenses. So when I first came over in 2016, 18, we raised the fees, we were able to cover most of our expenses. Gradually, as the cost of everything has gone up, the more animals we have in the facility, the longer the animals stay in the facility, it just costs more money. So I think this would be a modest change for us, but would bring in that, like I said, about 140 by estimate to help cover some of those costs. We've never had a cat breeder fee. I don't know why. We had a dog breeder fee, so we should have a cat breeder fee. So I just made the cat breeder fee the same as the dog annual fee, and then they get the discount on any registration. Dangerous and vicious dogs. You probably don't realize that once a dog is deemed dangerous or vicious, we are following up on that dog. We want to know the vaccination status of the dog. We want to know that it's registered. We want to know where that dog lives. We want to know that they're following up on any requirements for that dog. So we are annually looking at all those things and following up on those animals. We're just doing a slight increase, about $100 on the one, and I think it's $100 on the other, because we're doing the services, so we should be having the money to do the services that we do.
What's the definition of dangerous and vicious, the difference?
So dangerous can be any dog that off of his property has bitten or accosted a person. I'm not going to tell you that we're deeming dogs dangerous because they've accosted a person. But if a dog has continuously gotten out, right, running at large, not been vaccinated, that's a dog that's dangerous for our community. So it might not be your common definition of dangerous, but it's what we as public health see as a dangerous situation. Vicious dog is a dog that either has been deemed dangerous on 3 different occasions or has harmed an individual person in which they needed plastic surgery, it was a severe injury, or death. We have not had any deaths by a dog in McHenry County. Well, I've been in animal control, but we definitely have a handful of dogs that have been deemed vicious. We only have, I think it's 3 dogs that are actually still alive after being deemed vicious, but in proper containment.
Okay, so there is a system, a procedure for if they're deemed vicious that they would be put down?
Only the court, so I can recommend a dog be deemed vicious, but only the court can deem that dog vicious, and then the judge can decide, or a lot of times we negotiate whether the animal is going to be confined differently or is going to be euthanized.
I just wanted to understand the
Yeah.
procedure there. Okay.
And for you to have a dog that's vicious, you have to have an enclosure within an enclosure that nobody could put their hands through to get to the dog. The dog has to be muzzled all of the time, even in its home.
Okay.
That's the state law.
Jim, did you have something?
How many vicious dogs do we have in the county that you charge this fee to?
I want to say it's like 4. Not very many. Not very many.
The other one, like your shelter relinquish fees, you made a comment about the longer they're, the more cost you have
Yes.
and everything else. Do we euthanize?
We do euthanize when needed, when called for.
What is the length of time that an animal stays in the shelter that we then euthanize?
That's a fabulous question right now. It's a very difficult thing because we have a lot of what I would call gray area dogs coming in who maybe they were adopted during the pandemic. Maybe they didn't get as much socialization. Maybe they're just a dog that's not necessarily aggressive, but just hyper, right? And it appears to be aggressive. So they're harder to adopt out. We only euthanize about 100 animals a year. Our numbers are very, very low. We try to transfer as many dogs to rescues as we can. We have the ability of doing different adoption events where we're lowering the cost of adoptions. But I think the longest we've had an animal that was up for adoption, my staff is probably watching me right now going, wait a minute, 6 or 9 months. I can't remember whether it was 6 or 9 months.
That's reasonable.
It's reasonable. The difficulty for a dog is that they start to get, they can't expend their energy as well when they're in one of the kennels. They get taken out every day, but it starts to get to them.
Okay, and how many dogs and cats do you normally house on average?
Somewhere, adoptable animals somewhere around 45. We can have as many as 48 in our intake, but typically we're probably having, let me think about that for 2 seconds, maybe 20, 25, depending.
And when you distinguish adoptable and non-adoptable, what's a non-adoptable?
Oh, so no, intake is when they first come into our facility and they have to be put on a seven business day hold.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we're sort of gauging them, seeing their temperament, seeing how they are around different people, and then we're moving either to adoption or transfer or euthanasia. I would tell you that most of our euthanasias are because of medical issues.
Do you have staff on that do that, or do you have to send that out to a veterinarian?
Oh no, we do it all in-house.
You do it all in-house, okay.
So as far as the redemption fee, did you have any more questions on that?
No.
Okay. As far as the redemption fee, we didn't have a redemption fee for pocket pets, you know, your rabbits, your guinea pigs. So we didn't want them to pay the same fee as you're paying to redeem your dog, because you can imagine that a little guinea pig doesn't take as much care as a dog might take socializing and taking them out. So we put in a redemption fee for pocket pets. And then our vet services, it really kind of depends how long they've been there, what kind of vet services. So that's just, if your animal is being redeemed back to you, there might be a fee for vet services, and we want that fee to equate to the cost of our vet doing those services. Relinquish fees, we are putting those up just a little bit. They're still pretty reasonable. Again, I do have the ability depending on the need. So I will tell you, we had some service people who were being sent out to service, and we didn't charge them anything for the relinquish fee. So I do have the ability of lowering that when I can. If somebody is having an issue, once in a while, we'll have a homeless person who ends up in medical care, and so we are taking their animal, at a lower cost. So we did slightly change that. Yes.
On the fees, when you're increasing the fees, what's the percentage of your increase?
Oh, I didn't think you were gonna ask me that.
You just went to dollars. You just went by dollars.
I went by dollars, because I went by
Okay.
revenue.
Is there a fear, because my actual question is there a fear then of more non-compliance? Is there a percentage that you think you might get non-compliance now? In other words, cats, remember when we put the cat fee in when the state came in a few years back, and what that was the biggest outcry I've ever heard. You gotta register you're a cat. You'll pay a fee for it. So if they go up on a fee on the cat, or you make it the same as a dog, we'll get non-compliance over that.
I think the truth is that the other counties around us have been doing it for decades, registering cats, that I don't think that from a veterinarian standpoint, they are gonna be, if a cat is coming in, again, we're not knocking on your door saying, is your cat registered? We are, if we have to go out to a home saying, do you have a cat that should be vaccinated and registered? I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. But you were asking about whether we'll get compliance. I think the veterinarians are going to explain the reason why. So I'll give you two examples, right? Your cat is an indoor cat, a bat gets into the house, and then we have a situation where maybe either you or your cat was potentially exposed to a bat, and then we find out the bat is rabid. So we want all animals, whether indoor, outdoor cats, to be vaccinated. It's just safe for the public, and it's safe for your cat that you love so much.
Okay.
I guess we will see, Jim. Just like any supplies, the cost of the styrofoam is about 3 inches thick in a cardboard box that we're sending specimens. It just costs more for that. And then adoption fees, we are increasing them a little bit, but really the truth is we're just trying to cover the cost of the animal being in our facility, how long the animals had to stay for care in our facility, and we are much lower than the other adoption fees around us. And we do have the ability of having an event periodically to cover those costs. Oh, and the last thing is we do have some grants that periodic through the year, they will pay us to do free adoptions. So.
What percentage of your staff is volunteer?
So it is equivalent to about 1 full-time staff member in a year. So it's about 19. I think right now it's like 1,800 hours.
Okay, any questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming in. And
Would you like me to bring back any comments that we've received and answer these questions at next month's or no?
it would be nice, yes, Patty, but what's your time frame? I mean, if you can get it in by next month, great. If it's gonna, next month or 2 months doesn't matter.
Okay, I will do it then. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
One quick, you gonna email this out to us, or could you?
We could, absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure will.
Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, it's important to note that when PACS heard its presentation and reviewed the ordinance, Member Altoff made an amendment that will be included in the packet in the back of the actual ordinance itself. The amendment specifically includes a provision for prohibited acts, and that is in reference to equine and bovine actions, including.
Want me to read it?
Yes, can you please
So
read
I
it?
will read it to you. This is the section that's going to be added to the animal control ordinance. Intentional equine or bovine pulling or tripping, equine or bovine tailing, and equine or bovine heeling for entertainment or sports purposes are prohibited. This prohibition does not apply to the laying down of an equine or bovine for medical or identification purposes. So when you're considering this, you should know that the equine portion of this is already in the Humane Care for Animal Control Act. So it's something that already exists there. The addition of the bovine is not in the Humane Care for Animals Act.
Are any of these new prohibited in the, what would you call it, the national sanctioned rodeo? Like Like healing, is that international rodeos?
I looked at
I'm
a
assuming
few,
healing, is that when they catch them by the eye?
so I actually have the definition for you.
Okay.
Healing means to use a wire or rope to capture the hind legs of an animal.
Okay, and isn't that in the national rodeos?
Yes.
But tailing is not in the national rodeos.
Um,
Tailing is not sanctioned.
so tailing is in the Humane Care for Animals Act, and I can read that to you, but it's just under equine.
I think Jim's referring to it, that it's
I'm
not
referring
one
if
of
a
the,
rodeo comes to a county fair, okay, that's sanctioned rodeo, has to be a sanctioned, or Rosemont, we're not in
Yeah.
Rosemont. But are any of these sanctioned that they would have those, that now are making that illegal?
You know,
Tailing is not in any of those rodeos, I believe.
I don't believe
Maybe
so.
I'm wrong.
I don't believe so. If you'd like me to look, I don't know all of the professional associations, but I can certainly look at the ones at least that come to McHenry County through the fairgrounds and see that these things are already in there or not. I don't know whether they're in there for bovine or not. And I don't know that we do a lot with.
Because I don't like the ones that are sanctioned by the rodeo, those changes. I would rather stick to
The Farm Bureau?
this one that we're having the issue with, yeah.
I agree.
There are two things, so this is a proposed amendment that's come forward. I think good questions, we could further look into that. We are gonna be meeting with the Farm Bureau on June 10th to talk about the tree ordinance, and then secondly, to talk about this as well, to ensure the Farm Bureau is aware of this and can have some input. So there's still a process to go through. And this is part of really a two-pronged approach to this issue. In the animal control ordinance or public health ordinance, that has global application to the county. It applies to everybody. Then Adam will talk to you about some additional specific TUP regulations that are more to the event. So that's part of their two-pronged approach. So with that, I just want to make you aware of this amendment that's moving forward that was made by PCS. So with that, I know you were under a time crunch. Adam's got a lot to report on zoning. So with that, I'll just.
well, thank you.
I only have one more question on this
Okay.
rodeo deal. They mentioned on the radios, or one of the commenters mentioned about the animals were coming in from Iowa. Is there a health requirement crossing state lines that we have?
We do not have that. The Department of Ag would have that.
Do they have that?
The
In this-
department,
That would cover those out-of-state animals that they have to provide health papers?
as far as I understand, they have to have done the exams and have the health papers on them. We do not have a local requirement that we go and view those health papers.
Why wouldn't we do that part of this situation?
We could, but we would have
I
to,
mean,
we would have to hire a lot of
We
people.
do it at all the fairs, you have to present your health papers. Identification, tags, tattoos, everything on the animals.
Every time somebody puts a horse in a trailer and goes camping and.
But no, that's not, I don't know if that's a
You
requirement.
gotta have papers.
Okay, well, so then,
And it'd have to be, it would be, in my little bit of knowledge of this kind of thing, it'd be really hard to enforce and just take a ton of man hours.
Would be right there. Would be my biggest concern with it, with the amount of hours we would have to have for staffing for that kind of situation.
If a trailer's going down the road and there's somebody, state police or ag enforcement people, they'll pull the trailer over and check for the papers. So,
I was
That's as much,
talking about these 40 head of cattle that came into Oakland County, and that if there's a way that they could check those.
For
If they're
discussion.
coming into McHenry County that way, if there's 40 head coming into McHenry County and they've got brucellosis or something else, if there's any health papers, I mean, I would rather have that, a system that we could have that verified. But just my point when we were going through this.
They are required to have a veterinarian on site.
So that if they're required to have a veterinarian on site, they should be required to present health papers.
Possibly is that veterinarian?
On the on-site veterinarian, because when you go, let's say I show animals at the county fair, I have to, for hogs, present health papers that they've been, even for my local hogs, I had to present health papers that they were inspected and tested at the time, pseudo rabies and different things. So we had to blood test our animals. So when we got to the fair, the veterinarian inspected your papers. If you didn't have your health papers, you were gone. Okay, so if you didn't have your health papers on the animals coming into one of these rodeos, you can't have the rodeo.
I think when you go to talk to the Farm Bureau, you could ask them about looking
yeah.
at things like.
And I'd be the first to admit that's I'll probably be over my skis talking about that part of the conversation. I don't know what kind of papers the animals will have coming across state lines or anything like that. Scott and I were just talking about, we'll get into some of the details, but one of the details that we'll have procedurally is, putting in the requirements that the animals can only participate in one event, and then they have to move on. They can't have the same athlete going over and over and over again. That sort of stuff. So, but having that registration may be a very beneficial way of tracking that.
I think Jim brought up a good point for a way to enforce it, though. That would not take a ton of man hours. The vet's there anyway.
The vet's there.
Requirement. Something to look into, definitely.
Yeah, and I'm confident we can frame out the ordinance that way. Then procedurally, we've talked about this at length. This particular permit type at length with all the various agencies and departments that are involved. There are multiple approaches, and there's, depending on the operator, we have confidence that we're going to get this type of communication level from this one, and maybe this type from this one. So before we get into that, maybe we'll talk higher level, and then we'll get into the granular items. But before we do that, we've got, just looking at the agenda, 9.1, Special Events Animal Welfare Standards, and then we've got UDO Petitions 1, Petition 2. What we're kind of looking at right now is grouping these and grouping these, right? So these are the best systems, the battery storage systems, all the state laws that dictate everything for solar. These are on a timeline. We talked about that last month, maybe 6 weeks ago, that this is the time that they would go through and we would get those processed and under it. These are different. TUP, we have school impact fee, land donation topic, we have the offsite services business, which was previously discussed, and then some general ordinance cleanup. There could be more discussion. So maybe these are on a different track, but with the focus of this and being in season, one of the things that we would like the committee to consider is maybe even pulling in a third petition and just isolating the temporary entertainment events. Mm-hmm. So if that makes sense. So as we talk about that, that may be a question that we ask of you. The whole point of these discussions is whether or not you want to be the applicant for the text amendment. So the process as it goes forward, PED, you all agree that we want to move forward with, take example, BES, and we're going to move forward with those amendments. Those will go to public hearing on the 24th. And then we scheduled the 25th as the continuation date in the event. So it would be the end of the month that these would go forward. That, depending on the track, how those go, that would give us time to get them into PD on July 7th.
Just so I at least understand it, what we've done on the first one, on petition number 1, is basically taken the state statute and said, here's where we can increase, here's where we can at least do some enforcement. There's not much we can do, but here, and that's what we've really incorporated here. Is that correct?
Really, the way the state law looks and tells us to operate is, these are the standards, adopt your standards to match these. So we've had a couple discussions on that. Some of the phrases, so the way we're going to phrase it is, these are by state statute. Here's the specifications. So it's clear to our applicants, and most importantly our residents, that this is not something that the county board has come up and created. This is something that's been installed. So that's the concept. And yes, the other side of it is wherever we can, we've made it clear, very limited. I think screening is probably our biggest point that we can have some latitude on. You know, there's seasonal considerations, there's visual screening, all that stuff, you know, that we can try.
But it's basically, we started with the idea, this is where the statute will let us do anything.
Yeah.
Because there's not much we can do, I understand that, but I also don't want to lower these anywhere. I would rather increase them if I could.
Mm-hmm.
So
There's a little bit of latitude. And how's this? Where do you want us to talk? Because we do have limited time. We can talk about the animal special events and the procedures there. We can get into the best systems, and then we can talk about some of the other items.
What's the time frame for the best systems?
Well, as Joe said,
statute, we have to have them done.
we're limited. So we can talk about that and kind of cruise through what we're really talking about there.
And then
What's the time frame in terms of it being adopted?
Yeah. I mean, we have to do it this month so it can get to ZBA, so it can get back to us.
It has to be in, so it's in effect today, but the county ordinances don't have to be adopted for 120 days. So if it goes now, we would be in July for 30-day review. That would put us at August for adoption. That's the 90-day mark. We still have the public hearing process in the middle there, so I don't want to say that it's an absolute slam dunk, but yes, we have 30 days of wiggle room.
Okay. So you're suggesting that we move on to talk about some of these other things because of our limited time today?
It seems like there's a lot more passion in the room to talk about that
Okay.
in the committee and maybe some questions and maybe a decision to make on whether or not we parse that out into its own petition as well.
So in relation to 9.3 specifically, page 8, where it says temporary use standards, where you get into the specifics of the rodeo from page 9 on.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yep.
Yeah,
So I would-
rodeos.
Yeah, I think that, in my
These are the
opinion.
details, right?
Correct.
So before we get in, keep going.
Yep.
Before we get into that, there's a couple of items to preface.
Sure.
Specific to rodeos, we are gonna require applications be submitted within 60 days. I'm sorry, no sooner than 60 days. Temporary use permits are typically 30 days. Concerts and rodeos are the ones that there's too much planning that's required up front to really squeeze it any tighter than that. With the amount of coordination that we're gonna have to do, 60 days, when we're in those discussions with all the other agencies, animal control, sheriff's office, state's attorney's office, administration, and then certainly our zoning staff. That 60 days is gonna be useful. Because the other item that we've installed here is that for any temporary use that has 500 people or more, we have an incident action plan. And then we've put in that any rodeo is gonna require an incident action plan. So that is an automatic trigger that will cause the applicant to then go and coordinate with emergency management, McHenry County Emergency Management to create that incident action plan. They have templates and all that stuff, but what that does is it ties the security plan with the fire plan, with the emergency response for the various issues or weather. So then we get into the event. So the event requirements themselves, looking at 8, the 8A, B, and C, those were installed in 2023 in terms of the requirement for having the vet, the EMS on site, and then lighting. Many of these have kind of stuck during the daylight hours or twilight hours. They haven't been coupled with concerts as frequently. That's where that lighting came in the past, where the event started as a rodeo and evolved to a concert, and it was dark and there was no wayfinding, etc. Now we get into the proposed items, D through P. And this is where we start identifying specificity. And it's really, a lot of this language is lifted from the Humane Care for Animals Act and really gives The intention is to be redundant. You know, that law exists in Illinois. Now with this, it would exist as an ordinance here that would impact future permits, impact this permit, allow us to go back and do some code enforcement in addition to whatever may be out there or viable from a criminal aspect or any of the other agencies that have enforcement powers. So that's the intent here, is if you're gonna operate it cleanly. The intentional tripping of horses is prohibited. Animal injury, injured animals shall be humanely moved from the arena, not allowed to participate in future tasks. Stimulants, basically getting the animals or athletes poised in other methods to participate. Steers or calves, these can only be used in one event per day. So this is that item we were talking about, Jim, with you know, the papers and the documentation. Maybe that would be a way of tracking that, or jerseys or pens, or it comes down to, you know, our biggest concern is how is that enforced to be frank.
So our plan is eliminate tailing.
Mm-hmm.
Can I be recognized for a second?
You're recognized, but I don't know that that's our only plan.
Right,
Okay.
okay, but I'm saying, if that's the case, one event, and I just bring up tailing or healing, means a calf or steer can only be used for a healing event or a roping event or a tailing event. So, but he could be used multiple times in that event, is what you're saying.
Yes.
That was my question.
That's what it says.
Yep.
Which one?
One task
H.
within an event per day. So, and it would be one task within that event. So it could be, the way I read that is that it could run one event, and then there's another event over here, and it could run one time in that, and it could run one time in this, I think, based on that, the way I'm reading that.
So
I wonder if we could change the language there to be specific. I think the intention was that an animal, and be very specific here, that event isn't for multiple, I think also time, I think we have to take into consideration, the goal is that they're not used repeatedly in that event, right? So if you have that event, and it's ongoing, it sounds like it could be detrimental.
And the problem with this also applies to sanctioned rodeos. Like you would have at the county fair, they would bring in a professional rodeo instead of these ones that are flash out in the country. So if it's a sanctioned rodeo, they can't hold an event, basically with.
The fairgrounds are exempt from temporary uses, I will say that. This wouldn't apply, this is only for temporary uses that are applied for under that, under unincorporated. So I will say that because they're exempt under the state law, that we wouldn't have any enforceability on that. Does that hold them in other regard? I don't know.
Here's my concern though, is that you're eliminating totally their ability to host an event with that much of a restriction. Instead of saying, we don't want tailing and all that, now with that amendment, you basically, and then with one use of that animal, that means a steer can run one time in that day, okay? And if they've got, you know, and I'm not stuck on one time, I'm not stuck on 10 times, I'm not stuck on 3 times, I'm not saying amount of times, but one time to me seems to be very excessive. And I guess, can we just say in this change that we can't have tailing, it's illegal in this county?
It's there. My question is, are national rodeos part of the temporary use standard?
Our national rodeo.
Are the ones that you're referencing, Jim?
If
If that's, are they
Yeah,
under?
if a sanctioned rodeo came into town and they set up at the fairgrounds or at someplace else, Harvard, if they had if they, like what you're saying, if they set it up, would they be subject to this?
Harvard, yes,
Just to be
fairground,
clear,
no.
Adam, you had indicated these are the temporary use permit standards. If an event takes place at the fairgrounds, they do not require that temporary use permit, is that correct?
Right.
Okay, so this wouldn't apply specifically in that case. If the city of Harvard sanctions an event, it would be under the city of Harvard's regulations. So this is only for those that are unincorporated, and that would apply that those properties that require a temporary use permit.
Okay, okay. So essentially you're stopping rodeos.
We're
This.
providing a series of conditions for that event.
No, we just eliminate rodeos outside of the county fairgrounds. Why don't we just say they're no longer legal at all?
Because I don't know if you can do that legally. I think one of the concerns that we had going into this whole issue is ensuring that whatever ordinances we put in place, whatever regulations the county board wants to consider are facially neutral and that they will withstand a legal challenge. These are policies that, you know, as a county board, you have to determine, is this right for your county?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, Carolyn, did you?
Well, I don't know if,
I just.
No, we're not gonna
No,
have,
okay.
I'm sorry, but I can't go into public
Okay.
speaking at this time.
Yeah, because we have a timer, so.
but I did want to ask
Just
one,
turn
but
into
I do want to ask one question about this age and number of
Of
cats.
who?
If you're saying this is pulled from the Illinois Humane Care Act,
Care, yeah,
whatever,
yep.
is this how it reads in that? Because it would also be just as ambiguous there as it seems to be here.
I would have to pull it to.
Yeah, so would I.
So, I mean, I'm just kind of curious as if that's what, you know, I think there'd be more question about the
For
number.
letter H.
For letter H.
Mhm.
If we're having this problem, what does it say in the actual Illinois Act? If the idea was to limit the number of times that they are used. So if we could just get clarification.
There has to be a better way to write that
Yeah,
letter H,
yeah.
because my interpretation is that that animal could be used for this event, and then this event, and this event.
For any event.
The same thing.
What if the word event was defined?
I think that might be the
If the
approach.
word event was defined?
It possibly, I guess, event, you're looking at the whole rodeo as the event, I'm looking at as each class.
That's what I'm saying, maybe if there's a
Right.
Whatever.
definition.
So maybe there is a thing there, what the intention is. If you're talking like the whole event, one time, one thing, you're eliminating the rodeo, it's not gonna happen. And I don't think that's our intention.
Okay, and that's, I did want us to ask for a point of clarification, because, and maybe I just misheard it. I heard it one way and maybe the other, that maybe there are more runs would be acceptable, but then maybe not. So I didn't know if.
Well, perhaps
No,
more
that was
runs
the
that are acceptable,
clarification
Jim.
that,
Okay,
If you're not doing these other things, then that would clarify things for you, that that animal is allowed to participate without these other factors occurring to that animal.
well, I'd prefer it the other way.
Prefer to-
If you're gonna do it, that you could different events, but not run them 10 times in one class, you're gonna kill them. I mean, if you're
So,
running them 10
okay.
times in one event, if you're limiting them, not
So I
eliminating,
think we need to clarify this
Not
with the intention that,
right? Because there's confusion right here in this room.
Right.
What do you think it's gonna be
Right, and
like?
Jim and I are looking at the event is calf roping, and then there's the next event.
I mean, we can go down that.
And
So let's
it's,
clear.
the other big picture of it is, the rodeo is the event for the day, and that just needs to be clarified somehow.
okay.
Paul, don't make yourself late.
Okay, thanks.
Bye, Paul.
Bye, Paul.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then a couple of these other, items are kind of clear and obvious. No use of electric prods, spurs, some regulations on the spurs, rowels, and lock spurs, prohibitions. Any sort of clinches or saddle girths or flank straps that are sharp or have a cutting effect, pregnant mares, cows, etc. This is where the depiction of steer tailing is specifically prohibited, and then it defines steer tailing and jerking as well, the jerk down method. that is also kind of akin to steer tailing. Those are both prohibited in N and O, and then item P is the incident action plan that we previously discussed.
One more at the bottom.
Oh, yeah, there's Q, there we go. The action plan, and then a reinforcement of the temporary use standards. This is actually located elsewhere in the actual application standards for temporary uses, just so that it's reinforced in that's why it's there.
My recommendation is to separate this so that we can move this forward to have a discussion from all the
From the other ones,
that this is structured in. What are your thoughts?
That's fine with me, whatever the committee wants. Go ahead, Jim.
What part of this blue line is the amendment that Altoff made? Member Altoff made?
That is actually under the animal control ordinance.
That's a different, totally.
Yeah.
And that's not part of this at all, in this wording? There's nothing the same?
I mean, it's similar, but ours is just much smaller. It's, like we said, this statement comes directly from the humane care with the added bovine in there. So equine has all these restrictions already in the humane care, but bovine is not under this section in the humane care.
So we're gonna handle that as a separate issue also then? Okay.
Yeah, the source on this,
Right.
one of the influencing counties and models was Boone County, and the way theirs came out, they had a temporary use operation, and they had an overall animal care provision within their animal control ordinances. This was aided through the courts, so it was litigated, and that was the decision that was rendered there as an acceptable option.
I think it could just, because it's putting more eyes on it from different areas, right, is the whole point, not just being handling this whole thing out of the temporary use permit, but putting that in another ordinance under, where there's an opportunity to actually do something about violations.
I would say animal control would still cover the county fairgrounds as an example,
Yes.
where temporary use permit would.
But then they would have to have the DMA participating, correct, as part of this?
Correct me if I'm wrong, I believe EMA coordinates with the fairgrounds and their fair board on their events annually. They go through their schedule during the year, and they highlight which ones are gonna have a certain capacity and certain needs and demands.
So with some of the clarification, does this mean that we wait till next month? I know that we're now into July, which allows for June to kind of go through. What are your thoughts? Because this could be a discussion at COW next week, but without some of the clarification, preparation.
So we'll get clarification from that on that specific point, or offer options for the committee and the county board as a whole if necessary.
So that would be prepared for next week?
Yes, we can advance that, yes.
So the question is, are we advancing this to the COW with the changes, or are we?
That's just what I was looking at Adam about.
Yeah, so this,
Right.
the procedurally, this wouldn't go to the COW. I mean, you can continue the discussion. Procedurally, what we would be seeking is approval to go for a text amendment to the ZBA that would then come back to the to this committee and then to the county board for consideration for 30-day review. Yeah, so there's.
Could be two layers of changes, redefining a couple things.
Yep.
Even if we move this forward today.
Correct.
So if you move it forward today, then are you going to, how, if it gets moved forward today, and you have to take it to ZBA, right? Would you be incorporating some of the comments that we're making now?
Certainly.
Without ours, okay.
Yeah, we can, and we can kind of continue that. At that point, you're the applicant. So this is not the official document until we put it into the ZBA, and then the ZBA will review it, and then it'll come back to PED for more refinement. They're gonna give you a recommendation based on the ordinance and the 2050 plan.
Okay, but in other words, we're not gonna see how you redefine like H before you go to ZBA, which is, I'm not sure. That's exactly the.
Yeah, so there's no, yeah.
That was my question.
Right. Unless, I don't know, if, and I don't know.
That is a tough part on the timing of it, so.
Right.
I mean, can you do something like where you do clarification on a particular one that we know we don't understand, and it comes out to us individually and we reply, not all, but just
Well, you
reply
could
back?
go,
Can
there's
you do
nothing
that?
that stops you from going to the ZBA. I mean, we're, just like any members of the public, we can go to the ZBA meeting. You can look at the ZBA agenda, you can see what those changes
No, I understand that,
were.
but I mean, how do we agree as a committee?
I don't know that we have agreed, but the
We
ZBA just
haven't, because
recommends
we-
back to us what after they review it, they're gonna recommend back to us. We can decide whether we wanna take their recommendation.
But all right, but we have a specific thing that we want to redefine under number H.
Yeah.
We're not doing that before ZBA. So we could go through the whole process and get it back and change it then?
Yeah, we could if we wanted to.
Okay.
Yeah, you could. And then you could go through the 30-day.
Review and do it again.
30-day review and do it again.
But we wouldn't have to, we wouldn't have to, my point is, we're not gonna go back through the ZBA again. We're gonna get this, we're gonna take the language, knowing that we don't like one of them, or two, and then we don't agree on them, but we're gonna send it forward anyway. They're gonna make their recommendations. And then we're gonna come back and say, okay, but we wanna change these two. Do we have to take those two changes back to ZBA?
No,
Okay.
you would not.
And so to Joe's point, if we are the applicant, can we come, but see, we still won't be meeting before the ZBA to say whether or not we have come to an agreement about the language in those two line items. So there's no way for us to come to an agreement on language prior to the ZBA. So if we could do it after ZBA, then I guess we just move it forward.
And then maybe a third option on that would be, as you mentioned, we put it out there, we give you clarification, and then we offer the opportunity for the committee to submit comments, just email it back to us that we would submit in for comment for consideration by the ZBA, and let them render a recommendation at the very least.
Okay.
Another question that I have, and I don't know if this is actual, but because we're proposing this, so is this kind of the standard we're going to be on? So when anyone comes in for these usage, is this what we're going to be using or not until it's solidified?
You can't use it until it's solidified. It's not an ordinance yet. So we don't, I mean, we can certainly say this is what we're looking at, but until it's passed, that's the reason I would want it to go forward personally. Get it to the ZBA, let them do their parts. That requires publication, that requires an opportunity for the public to comment, that requires us for the opportunity to comment if we want to. It comes back, then we put it on 30-day review. We're still talking about something that's not going to happen until August.
Right.
So, you know, I don't want it to wait till September.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. I just don't, I'm not comfortable with, I like the idea of looking at the changes and clarifications, getting that out to us. So we at least see it. If we have individual comments, we can direct them back to you so that you have them in time for going before the ZBA.
When is that ZBA hearing specifically for this?
The 24th of June, that's a Wednesday. And then we have a continuation date that we've reserved on the 25th of June. Likely 1:30?
Yes.
Both of them, likely 1:30
Okay.
PM.
Well, could you asterisk the H for the ZBA knowing conversations around this clarification?
Yeah, we can highlight it and just definitely say that there's a significant amount of conversation on certain piece.
Have we sat down with anybody that runs a sanctioned rodeo, had them look at this?
No.
That's important, I agree.
Do we know anyone that could, maybe the Farm Bureau on June 10th, that conversation will come up there?
Whether it's through whoever, because, I mean, I like the idea of all, but I see that there could be an issue with it because of one of the events that typically happens at rodeos.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Well,
yes, I think that June 10th meeting would be our best opportunity and the next opportunity. I don't know that we've ever interacted with anybody that's had a sanctioned rodeo, at least in my time here, because they've either gone to the fairgrounds or elsewhere.
Okay. Let's have a show of hands of how many people have actually been to a rodeo. Huh? More than I thought. Okay.
So,
Better one. How many have been to one here?
I have a question about, because I was mixed up that the Public Health Committee saw that your side for the animal control. When that amendment was made, I'm just asking for opinion, were they as confused as we were about that amendment?
So that amendment has not gone to public health yet,
It
because
was,
it was done after we had our Board of Health meeting.
when did,
We just had it last week.
but when did Altoff amend it? Did she amended it personally?
Public Health and Community Services meeting, so Thursday.
So it still has to go back through the Board of Health.
I'm saying the Public Health Community Service Committee amended this.
That's correct.
Right. What was their reaction as a committee? Were they unanimous on this, or were they disagreement? Because
I was there.
I don't-
Wait.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the amendment that Pam made, or are you talking about this stuff?
amendment Pan made,
Yeah,
because it
this
kind of
is-
confuses the whole situation, because some of it's the same wording.
Well, it doesn't to me, confusing. You just wanted to make sure that the bovine was in there with the equine.
Well, the bovine's in with the equine, but that contained roping and tailing, right? Okay, that contained the roping, the healing, and all of those other things. So now, the animal control has oversight of the fairgrounds, right?
I
You have
mean,
a conflict here.
we have oversight of the fairgrounds if, remember, we're ordinance violations,
And that's an ordinance
not
violation
a
at that point.
criminal violation. So that would be the sheriff's office who would work on any criminal violation.
Okay, but if they're healing a calf at a rodeo at the fairgrounds, that's a violation of ordinance if we adopt that.
I think that's a conversation for the Farm Bureau as well, because we do
You heard
allow
the same answer
for,
as I
nothing in the ordinance affects normal good husbandry practices utilized by any person in the production of food, companion, or work animals, or the extermination of undesirable pests.
did. This is a rodeo. You're not gonna classify rodeo as
Well,
that.
rodeo,
But you're gonna have authority over a rodeo. That's at the fairgrounds. So somebody better clarify that before I vote for anything.
technically we have authority over the use of animals
At the
in McHenry
fairgrounds.
County.
Yeah.
I think Jim wants to come to the meeting on June 10th.
June 10th.
June 10th, I'll be at June 10th, but the 24th is when they're gonna talk about it,
I'll be at the 20th.
June. I'll make sure you know when we're meeting at the farm.
The Farm Bureau.
Yeah, we're meeting at, it's at 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock at night,
Yeah, I do believe so.
okay?
Oh, at the Farm Bureau?
Is that an accurate PM?
I believe so, that's what I have on my calendar.
Okay, yeah. I was already limbering up for a late one. Yeah, yeah. So that'll be late, 8 p.m.
Okay. Okay, I got it mixed up on what we're doing there. The best thing is the June 10th one,
No, June 10th is the Farm Bureau.
No, that's a separate meeting.
I'm sorry, I mixed up when the meetings were, sorry.
Okay.
My bad.
So what do you need from us related to this?
Well, I think we got a lot of direction on this one, on this particular piece. There's two takeaways that I have. One, separating. It sounded like separating the temporary use standards related to rodeos is critical, and so separating that out is something that we'll do. Committee agrees, and then we'll get clarification on item O, if I'm not mistaken. And
H.
O and H with the
H.
ones that caused the most
attention, and we'll provide that clarification out. We'll send that out. Committee will get blind copied on those, so you can only individually email back to us.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And then we'll incorporate those comments, any comments, from one side or the other. We'll bring them all to ZBA for consideration and highlight those items at the public hearing. If there's any additional comments verbally or written from the Farm Bureau, we'll keep the committee apprised of that as well and incorporate those in the ZBA if they're not redundant. And then and we'll go from there, I think, in terms of this particular component, this particular petition.
Okay.
All right.
You don't need a motion for this to move this on?
I don't need a motion, I mean, if.
I'll make a
But
motion
it
to
helps.
do what he said.
What Adam said. I
Okay,
second
Dana
that.
seconds it, okay. Any other conversation as far as this is going? Okay, we'll go to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Mary Ellen.
so, thank you. And thank you, Adam, for clarifying that. Okay,
Yeah.
Energy production facilities.
Energy production facilities, all right, so,
Is
All right.
that C26-0017? Yep,
yes.
okay.
Okay, so, there's, again, a lot of this information is inherited. And so where our definitions come from, whether it's an ESS, energy storage system, the service interruption, facility owner, force majeure, these are all inherited items. We followed very, very closely, and to your point, Member Gottemaler, where we could.
So all the blue line is the state.
Is the state law, correct? Not to skip ahead, but Kim and I are both going down to the meat and potatoes on this. And it really starts with item 2A is where I would highlight. So
What page is that?
this is page 3 of 8
Okay.
on the attachment. So this is a big change for us, not so much for you, but for us.
2A.
Previously, the public hearing needed to be conducted within 45 days. The state law has changed that the public hearing needs to conclude within 60 days. So that is kind of an ultra fast track for us.
Of course it is.
The big change that we are going to do internally is there's really going to be zero wiggle room in terms of having a complete application and moving it forward. Not that we had a ton of wiggle room before, but there just can't be any gaps. So until we get a complete application that's sure-footed, these things are gonna go, they have the potential from going from no application to building permit application within about 90 days. So 60 days for that public hearing needs to be concluded, and then and in that meantime, they can apply for a building permit. And then the 30 days after that public hearing, it would go, the county board has to vote on it within 30 days or the next available meeting. So within 90 days, we could go from not knowing who these groups are to having a permit in hand if they have their ducks in a row. So,
Okay.
right, so that's a really intense piece on our end. It's really not, the point I bring that up is just so that you know, we are gonna work diligently on making sure those applications are complete, thorough. If something is missing, we just won't accept it at that point. We do have the authority and the ability to do that in our purview.
I'm gonna jump to page 4,
Okey-doke.
where it says principal use standards, the removal of gas and coal
So what can we include in that complete application?
under
Reduction.
16.56.03.
Gas or coal, okay?
Keep going.
Principal use item
Page
2.
4. Oh, page 4.
Yeah, right at the bottom of 4,
Oh, there.
right there.
Yep. So the removal of gas and
where's-
coal, could you explain?
It's 16.
I don't
Yeah,
have-
so-
yes.
So that was to allow for it to include other, substations or anything like that. If anything else, other types came in that would kind of generalize and include. But I think the state statute is where it indicated that wind, solar, and energy storage systems were their own standalone type use. So we wanted to clarify that those are not included, but any other type of power production, and not limiting it specifically just to gas or coal.
Could you amend that to say power production as well as gas or coal? Because I would interpret it like you're not allowed to have gas or coal. Am I it's causing just an alarm to me?
you're thinking it's taking gas and coal out of the picture?
Correct.
And then from the other side of it, it's neutral.
It's broadening
Any
it so that it allows
power
any type.
production.
Because nobody's gonna see gas and coal being removed, it's just.
Well, they are removing gas right now, so that's my concern.
But power production,
Gas and
it's neutral, it says power production of any kind, gas, coal, wind, solar.
So power production's all encompassing, because then you've removed solar farms, wind energy. So energy system, energy facility, that's including wind, solar, gas, coal.
Yes, it includes all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, this broadens it to the point where, and it generalizes it, that's where the modifications for solar farms and wind energy systems
Okay.
gets overwritten to be commercial solar energy facilities as
Okay.
it's depicted in the state
And there is
law.
a definition for power production that encompasses all as well, so
Okay.
that should cover.
Okay.
Excludes
That's a good catch, yeah.
commercial solar.
All
So
right.
it's no, okay,
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
Over the past couple weeks, we've had several discussions, even going in, if you wanted to go down to item.
Just if you go to the next page, the removal of that,
You're the lawyers, is that what
the
you mean?
threatened or endangered species.
It excludes the
that.
commercial solar.
Yeah, so that is still required. The reason that we took those
changes
couple of items out is because there's probably 20, 25 requirements, and limiting it to just listing those couple was kind of deceiving, I think. And so by adding in just the checklist that we refer to there,
Okay.
everything will be listed in that checklist and available on our website as part of the application materials.
This is something that we've recognized through our ZBA hearings with the other solar facilities, that having a little bit more latitude there, and it's there's the flexibility within the state law, and our state attorney's office has reinforced that having that independent, you don't have to codify it necessarily, but you can put it in that checklist.
It's changed to Cs. Changed
One change that in conversations recently is about
That's what-
4:30 last night with item 2A right below the item we were just speaking on the checklist. It's going to have the same effect, but rearranging that sentence of solar panels, structures, etc., shall be erected no less than 50 feet from the property lines, public right-of-ways, 150 feet from the nearest wall of the non-participating owner. We're gonna install in that and upfront some language that talks about all of that equipment and the facilities shall be erected in accordance with the state statute, and then detail it. Truthfully, this is an action, and we're gonna go through this document and look at anything else. I think that might be the only spot. Look at anything else that reads that way, just so it's clear to our residents that this isn't something that the county board created. This is something that was dictated from the state.
And I don't mean to jump to the other one with the rodeos and other amendments, but it's pertinent to this. With the authorization, when you went to from any stockholder, it went from 7.5% to 20%. What was the reason? Is that because more stockholders, you wouldn't be able to flag who's owning these things?
Yes, it is. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I jumped, Carolyn.
That's okay, but where?
I'm on the rodeo and other amendment
okay.
one that we were just on.
I saw that time frame.
Okay.
That percentage, I agree with you.
So can you help me understand?
So that was to match state statute. So we've had 7.5% our ordinance for a long time. Through research, I was finding that sometime in the 90s it changed to 20%, and our ordinance never followed. So this is just to clean that up and bring it up to state statute.
Oh, I see.
Like you say, it was 7.5% a long time ago. That used to be the standards for the ethics standards. That if you own 7.5% of a company, whatever company, you had to disclose that ownership. And so that's where I know the 7.5% came from.
Yeah, at
I
some
didn't
point
know
it
when
changed
they
and we
changed
weren't
it.
Well,
aware.
Illinois became unethical, so.
No, but that's the 7.5% was in the statutes years ago, and that's carried forward.
Which makes sense to me. The 20% is
I know, it's a big difference.
big difference. Okay.
So somebody in Springfield needed 20% someplace.
Well, they didn't want you to know until you got 20%. You could have 19.9.
Yeah.
Okay. So interesting.
When we move down to the item,
Sorry, I digress.
I'm sorry, maybe I don't want to skip ahead. Is there?
No,
No, you're.
I've read this already, so.
Standards, so the application standards really, item AAA. Unless there's something in there that I didn't
Oh,
notice.
AA energy storage system?
Yeah, so these are the application standards and, site plan, these are very specific within the state ordinance as well. State law, threatened and endangered species. And then we have item D is where we collect everything else that may be site specific or something else that may be of interest or value to the application and the determination process.
Including in the fencing with the.
Yeah, the fencing is quite prescribed by NFPA 855. 855 is specifically called out within the state act. It is a very specific volume from NFPA that talks about energy storage systems of all scales. So whether you have a UPS in your little battery backup for your servers, or if you have a full house battery backup, or whether you have a 600 megawatt facility that's being discussed at Prairie Grove. That volume carries all of that, and then it brings in about 20 or so different volumes from NFPA and the National Electrical Code, other standards, as they would either be proposed or as they would influence.
So for that part, 9A, the decommissioning, 25%, 50%, what happens when these companies go bankrupt? Who then decommissions?
So that actually ties with our fee ordinance. We do have a couple comments that have come up through the 30-day review period. But to answer your question, whether it's a BESS, whether it's a solar, whether it's a wind, if we ever get one of those, the property owner, as with any development, is the sole person that's responsible. If they refused to demolish it when that would be dictated that either it's abandoned or there's an unsafe presence or something along those lines, then we would pursue it as we do with any other compliance action, and we would seek a court order to do the demolition on ourselves. We would, before doing that, we would call the letter of credit or the bond or whatever that decommissioning value is, however that's held. We would collect that, and then we would put it out for bid, and we would oversee that.
So the I-1, is there any way that, is this state statute right here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you couldn't front load 90% of the decommissioning that they'd have to pay us?
No, it's, how's this? There's times, more often than not, that the applicants accidentally do. They give us the full bond up front. They're recognizing now, I think in a little bit more over the last 2 years, 3 years, that they don't have to, and they do bring in that graduated, the lower level, and then they graduate up as time in accordance with the state law. So we're able to adapt.
So in 10 years, that might be good if they don't go bust in the first 10 years. That might be good in 10 years because that bonding level would be at that 10-year point, right?
Correct.
For inflation, that would be the good point.
It can be. That's our biggest fight. I remember Shorten during last county board cycle was talking about understanding the decommissioning a little bit more. What you just talked about, that escalator fee, that's one of our toughest challenges, is identifying that in their proposal for the decommissioning bond and then challenging it. It's challengeable. We've done 90 of these in terms of the solar farms. We haven't done any with the BESS systems just yet. We'll get good at that too, but we're on top of it with the solar facilities to the point where we can identify if you're trending that direction or if you're not, or if you're substituting what would be escalation for salvage value or overestimating that. So our staff has grown very proficient with those types of discussions and analysis.
So the challenge being whether or not that 25% or 50% is actually going to cover the cost.
For their tiles.
Is that what you're talking about in that regard? Okay.
Yeah, and the reality to finish your...
Well, let's just... Oh, go ahead.
To finish the answer on that, so we would pursue it, we would get a court order, we would collect on the letter of credit or the bond, and then any of that gap, we would lien the property. So that's how we do it. We have a demo for a house historically, and those come back.
It's under the triple A.
We paid out a couple times this year for demos that happened in 2016, 2016, 2017. So it can happen, but we hope we don't have to get to that point.
So we can't slow it down.
Carolyn, did you have something else? Or-
No, no, I mean, I think I was just trying to clarify what you were saying about the challenge that you face,
And who
that's,
decides on the dollar amount?
yeah, that's what I'm,
Yeah, so there is a third-party engineer that assembles those. Every one of them is generally a different engineer. It's not like they go to one person who's always, lowballing it and then we have to drive it up, but.
Okay, so that's the part we're challenging, is that
That's what
the
I'm saying.
decommissioning engineer's estimate,
Yes.
and what 25% of that would be.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
But, where's our power there? Where's our say on that, other than we don't think so?
Expertise in the field. I mean, I'm a licensed architect. We have a licensed architect that reviews that. We have civil engineers that'll review that, historical data. We use RS means, which gives us a national data and then a local scale and a local factor for cost of construction throughout, like I said, throughout the country, but then, take $1 worth of work in Nebraska, you come to Chicago, it's about, you multiply by 1.3.
I understand that, but if we say, no, that's not enough, they take it, their option is to take us to court. If we say, no, that's not enough, we're not gonna issue you a permit.
Yeah, we won't issue the permit, we won't take that application as complete, so we won't bring it in at all.
So then the option would be that they would take us to court to prove that they're right in that dollar amount.
Or they'd raise the bond and
Well,
go from there.
Well, they could agree with us, yeah, that would be fine, but if they don't agree with us,
Yeah.
They'd probably be better off to put the bond up and then sue to get it back or reduce it.
Right.
Because they could go forward and get their permits and get construction.
Big fights.
Yeah, we've never had anybody really.
They're gonna
We've
Yeah.
had challenges, we've had pushback, but we've had acceptance. I don't want to say these are small numbers, but the numbers for these, I would say they're transferable, because it's an upfront cost that then when they sell the project or when they sell their product, the power.
when the subsidies for these things it's up when, or is up?
No.
As I understand, it's July 2nd or July 4th, they expire?
The
I guess I would-
federal credit stuff
Federal credit.
expires, I thought it was July 2nd, but whatever.
For new,
I guess I see that it's gonna be a more interesting debate after that subsidies is not part of the equation.
Yeah.
I think they'll slow down personally, but I don't.
Well, they'll slow down, but the ones that do come forward they're gonna be fighting dollar for dollar a little bit more than the ones that wanna make sure they get it moving because of the subsidy. Okay, I just wanted to get that clear in my head.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have to go.
yeah, I got it.
See you, Joe.
Do you need
Do you need anything?
to go forward with this one?
With Bess, I think as long as you have an understanding, it's on a time frame. So if it's not this month, it's gotta be next month.
Go forward with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you want a formal motion like we did the last one, or is?
Sure, for the record, to be consistent.
Well, I'll second it. Okay, and I'll
Thank you.
second it. All those in favor of moving this forward, say aye.
Aye.
For the record, you got it.
Thank you, sir.
See you.
Thank you.
Before we adjourn, should we pause on the other items and bring them to July? The items like the school impact fee land donation and the offsite services business and the general ordinance cleanup, and separate the big priorities to go forward?
but you have the fees and everything, is all part of this one?
The fee ordinance is on 30-day review, moving towards county board approval.
We don't have to adjourn. There's still 4 of us here.
You don't need to vote anything. Yeah.
Oh, all right.
So you're leaving?
Don't leave.
Those
I have to
two are
go.
leaving, we're done.
Okay, we're done then. Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't realize you know it's leaving.
Split them?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a few clarification points on the fee ordinance. That's all I was going to talk about. I think that a lot of them were springboarding off of the MCSC conversation that was had last week. And I think we've got a proposal that I'll help identify as we go forward. And if we need to talk about it at the COW or the county board meeting, it'll give me something to do.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you.
Sorry, guys.
Okay. If you leave, we're done.
We're adjourned.
No,
I just leave it at that as to have a formal adjournment.
I know, it's bad, because this was a good meeting to have.
The rest of it will go to July.
That's what it is.
Needs to be on the record that that just like with lack of water.
Planning, right?
Yes. Okay.
Under your board rules.
Thanks, Tom.
if the committee does not have a quorum, you can still have discussion for items that are on your duly posted agenda.
There's not gonna be two of us here, because you had to go too, you said.
Well, I did have something, I'm thinking we would wrap up. I'm just down in the hall at 10:30, so I don't know what else I can.
I'll say it. We're not gonna have that discussion with only 3 of us here.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
that's
futile.
fine.
It doesn't make it
That's
any.
what I was thinking.